so much for taking time to join us today. Phil Gillen, Eastern Film fans, and welcome Attila Korosi. Thank you very much, like I say, for taking time. I'm really excited to talk to you today. Yeah.
Very
Um,
nice to meet you, Phil, and very excited to talk with you as well. Thank you.
yes, excellent, excellent. Look, I want to kick into it and stuff because I've read a little bit about you, and we'll get to the film, and we need to do that. But I ask all my guests anyway, and yours is an intriguing one, how you got there. But your inspiration or your what was your drive inspiration to get to become a director in the first place? What was your story? How did you why are you here? What was your inspiration to get to where you are now, I guess is the question.
Well, that's a very good question, Phil, and I do appreciate it. It started when I was very, very little, actually. My father, my father wanted to be a director,
Mm,
and from early on, he taught me much about movies. I'm talking when I was like 2, 3, 4 years old.
yeah.
Also, my dad had a very successful VHS business back in the 80s,
Yeah,
and he really applied for the degree to become a director. However, we grew up in Yugoslavia,
yeah.
and right around that time he applied, the war broke out.
Mm,
So he had to enlist. He was actually forced to enlist in the National Army to go to war.
yeah,
And that was pretty much the end of the dream. The
yeah,
country separated into many smaller countries, you
yeah,
know. And then, but to answer your question, I think the genesis of me wanting
yeah,
to do something with cinema
yeah.
originated from my father,
With it from your
actually.
father itself. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of people are, there's a lot of always inspirations. Yeah, I know I don't look it, but I'm old enough to remember the war breaking out. Obviously, we saw it on TV, as a kid, and I remember VHS. I grew up on VHS before, the
Yeah.
DVDs and all that. So,
Yeah.
one of the first videos I got VHS was Jackie Chan Snake and the Eagle Shadow. So, yeah, it took me on a journey. But same to your point. I grew up watching films. My dad had let me watch, Seven Samurai on the TV and things like that.
Oh,
There were inspirations, ultimately, as a kid watching that, he let
yeah.
me sneak down to watch it, was an
Yeah.
inspiration to what I wanted to talk about films and meet people like yourself. So there's always a spark and inspiration. And there was a journey for you as well because you didn't go, right, okay, I'll become a director. All of a sudden, that's it. You were in war-torn
True.
Yugoslavia. You had to get somewhere and stuff. There was a little bit of a journey. You don't need to go into all of it, but just explain some of that journey because you started off running so you could become a director, as far as I know, which is one way of doing it, I guess, but opens up doors. So what was that journey for you?
Well, like I really wanted to be a director. I wanted to be
Yeah,
the guy who makes
yeah,
the stories. And as I mentioned, it was a decade-long war.
yeah,
So my
yeah,
only way I understood when I was about 15 or 16, I wanted to make movies in the United States, like in America, American
yeah,
movies, because those movies touch my heart really, really deeply. And then I realized, well, what can I do to get to the States? Because the people of my country, they burned down the US embassy. So it
yeah,
was close to impossible to,
yeah,
you know, to get a visa. But then I
yeah,
read somewhere that US universities, they offer full scholarships to prospective student athletes. And I
yeah.
was like, well, what is the easiest sport I can do? And I was like, I can run because everybody
Good
can run.
one.
You don't need nothing.
That's
You
it.
just have to be crazy.
Yeah,
I understood, Phil, I understood from early on that
yeah,
for a filmmaker, I had to become a runner.
yeah,
I hated running like soccer or you guys in UK,
yeah.
football. Football was
Football.
my love.
Yeah, yeah,
But running was my ticket to America. And then that craziness, also the way I approach filmmaking right now. And that is why I
yeah,
very
yeah,
much relate to Asian cinema. I see lots of Jackie Chan in your
yeah,
background. And
yeah,
then, like Jackie, he came out from a background, Enter the Dragon. And then
yeah,
how passionate and how crazy he was to express himself through cinema. Like all
yeah.
the stunts that he did. I mean, it became immortal.
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
like to
Look,
believe that I have the
yeah,
same
yeah.
similar
It's a
craziness.
fascinating journey, and anybody out there go, you can find out about Attila's journey, and it is a fascinating one. But let's get down to where we need to be, and talk about Demon Dancer.
Demons are real. It's hard to believe at first, until they possess someone you love.
A curse of this magnitude must be carefully planted.
By who?
Let's talk about Demon Dance and where the inspiration. Because I know you did Live and Die in East LA first, which got some really good feedback and plaudits and stuff. And you've done something completely different here with Demon Dancer. So where did the story and idea come from initially for that film?
Well, the genesis of the story was actually a
Mm,
very unpleasant experience
right.
that I experienced in South Korea.
Yeah.
And it made me very, very furious. I don't want to go into details just
Okay.
because the movie just released in South Korea and is doing very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that was a very bad experience, was the
Right.
genesis for the
Okay.
film. And then I channeled that anger and fury into a screenplay
Yeah.
that can touch, let's call on interracial relationships, interracial marriages in highly homogeneous societies,
Yeah.
such as South Korea, for example.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to make it a drama. I wanted to make
Yeah.
it through the lens of fantasy, anime, action, because that sells very well globally.
Yeah, of course it doesn't, and that's one of the striking things. There's lots of visual shots. There's lots of anime. When you were doing this, and coming back to the point, obviously, Live and Die in East LA and stuff. You've done this very kind of documentary, gang related, really I suppose akin to what you'd come from, and you could establish that as war torn, and you've got gangs over there, and you've done something completely kind of left field and stuff with this kind of anime and visual style and stuff. Was that always in your mind that you wanted to do something, and you were putting those pieces together, in your journey to become a director? Because, like I say, it's very visual, and what you've kind of done with the Demon Dancer in this instance.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
two things really shaped me as a director, as a storyteller. And the first thing is action cinema of the
Hmm.
80s and 90s. And the second thing is anime and manga. Up to
Yeah.
these days, I'm religiously reading and watching anime. So I'm putting those two things together.
Yeah, mash them together. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
and you can see it. It comes out in the movie and stuff. You can see that in the
yeah.
manga and the action and that 80s influence and stuff. There's another influence in there as well. It's very prominent from the start, and I've always talked about how from a martial arts point of view, dance is very coupled with martial arts because it's a form of dancing, and a lot of it is because it's elegant and forms and all that, and it's very, again, for you, that there was a string of like this dance. I mean, obviously, demon, sewer, Nora, obviously dancer. You've got this dance theme that goes through it and stuff, and very articulate. Were you aware when you were making that kind of, from a choreography, from a fighting point of view, that that's something you wanted to integrate within the action sequences, about them being very fluid, like dance, for instance?
Absolutely. That was the goal
Yeah,
from the beginning. And that's why I really, really enjoyed your review because you noticed so many meticulous things about the movie
yeah,
that point in the way you're asking the question. Absolutely. I was fortunate to work with one of the biggest action choreographer in South Korea.
yeah,
He is
brilliant.
a Blue Dragon winning stunt choreographer for The
Yeah,
Villainous, The
yeah,
Wailing, Carter,
yeah,
many action movies. And one of the challenges we had actually is how to make the moves like less fluid. Because
yeah,
if the main character is a ballerina, suddenly she cannot learn martial arts fluidly. So she has to
exactly.
telegraph her
Yeah,
punches a little bit, her kicks a little bit. But in the same time, she has to be graceful like a
yes,
ballerina.
graceful. Yeah,
So we kind
exactly.
of like wanted to put this fighting with dancing together, you
Yeah, I
know.
mean, it's very clever. I mean, I spotted it straight away. Look, I knew the action choreographer that you got in as soon as I saw that name flick up. Before I'd seen the movie, I thought this is going to be really interesting.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't know how you'd meshed everything together.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
isn't, and I say mesh, not messed, mesh, and it does, and it works really well. Threw everything at it, and I really like that because you want to be entertained as part. When I go to the cinema, I want to be entertained by something. Okay, for me, it's like action sequences. I want to see entertaining action sequences. For me, this is what I was thrilled by, that it was a different way of seeing. We've seen action sequences over and over again, and you've done something completely different, and you've thrown in different elements of the manga and the anime, and then you put dance over, and it was great to see just something different from the norm that we usually see in the kind of action tropes. And the same as you, I watch lots of movies, and that was fantastic. The one scene we have to talk about, and I imagine technically it was very difficult was obviously on the elevator in that fight scene, which I know again you've got plaudits for. Firstly, how did the thought or the idea come about for that particular sequence?
Well, over the years, I developed a very successful relationship with a Korean businessman
Okay.
who owns that property. It's like, I think it's a 26-story high building.
Yeah.
And well, first of all, it's impossible to pull off that scene
Yeah.
because no insurance company and no property owner
No.
wants to assume liability because it's very risky.
No, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
So that is
Yeah.
one of the reasons I attracted the action choreographer because I told him, I can pull it off. I'm fairly
Yeah.
confident I can pull it off, you know. And he gave me a chance. I gave him a chance, and then we filmed it. And like everything else, when you film, things go wrong, you know. So the elevator broke, and I remember I picked up a camera. It's like a 15-pound camera, and I had to climb like stairs on such a small stairs, and I have broad shoulders, you know.
The things we do, the love.
The things we do,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
got it.
and but we pulled it off. We prepared very well for it.
Yeah.
I have to commend the stunt people and the
Yes.
action actors as well because they took a huge risk. I
Yeah.
mean, one false step, like you mentioned, it can be
Exactly. Oh
lethal.
yeah. You can
And me
see
as
it.
a director and producer, you know, the liability all transfers to my production company. So it was a
Yeah.
very nerve-wracking scene. But you wrote about it so beautifully, Phil, you know.
Thank you. No, I did, and he deserved all the plaudits for it and stuff. But and again, I came in as I do with every film and movie that I watch. I try not to go online and look at it. I try to absorb the movie, so
Yeah,
it's my
yeah.
impressions, not anybody else's, because it's easy to do that. So I was wowed by it, and I literally the same as you, heart in mouth in the sequence of stuff, going, "Oh, one fraudulent slip there, and that's it. You're in a whole world of trouble and pain." From just interesting, just from my point of view, from conceptually when you kind of wrote that and you were going to do that, how long did it take then to film that sequence from an end-to-end point of view?
Well, we had about 4 days,
Okay, yeah, that's
about
about,
four
yeah.
days, but
Mm.
it was 3 days of preparing.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
literally,
Yeah,
first we had to go with cables and
yeah,
wires, but then I was the one actually who shot that scene because I didn't
yeah,
want more people just for
yeah,
liability
yeah,
purposes.
yeah.
And first I wired myself up to the elevator so I don't fall off. But then I
Yeah,
figured out if I play too safe, the camera angles I want, they're not gonna
he's gonna.
transfer to what I want to create visually. So I was like, you
Mm,
know what? Let's just cut off the cables. I don't care. If I fall, I
yeah,
fall. It is what it is, you know. So I just took a camera and then we pulled it off. You know, it was a very complex scene. And then the action choreographer told me later, there's the first scene in South Korea that has a fighting sequence on a descending car elevator.
mm.
You know, so
Yeah,
that's
like I
yeah,
say, it's completely unique. For those that haven't seen it and love their action sequences, you need to watch this. For all the things that I've talked about and the go and look at the review, go and look at this. But it's a fantastic sequence, and it's one of many and stuff that jump out at you. But overall, from a film point of view, I love the story and what's behind it. And challenging and coming back to your demons and your inner demons, so to speak, and there's all that and stuff. There's an underlying underneath it from a story point of view, which is fantastic.
You hate foreigners.
No, I love my country more.
I want the demon inside of me.
This is my human form. Only you can see. The calmer you are, the easier it is for me to control your muscles. You're so beautiful and mighty when you dance. This is your weapon.
I've never been in a fight before.
You think of dancing, and I'll do the fighting.
3, 2, 1.
Now you're ready.
I die, you die.
I guess you're done now. What's your kind of next steps? Obviously, you're on the road now. You've become a director. Hopefully, gets all the plaudits it should do and stuff. Have you got, say, for instance, people you'd like to work with? Have you got ideas on what you want to do next? Because you've thrown a lot into that, but I imagine there's still a lot more to come for you as a director that you want to obviously put on film. So, any thoughts in next steps and what you'd like to do?
yeah. Well, I would like to make action cinema. That's where
Yeah.
my heart is at. I also like drama. I have a very good drama screenplay that we are developing,
Okay.
but
Excellent.
the the huge success we experienced in South Korea with Demon Dancer Nara, there is a chance actually that we're going to go into production of a sequel, which would be, I think,
Okay,
pretty cool,
really. Yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm going to share something with you, and you're going to be the first person to know this right now.
Okay.
The version that you saw of Demon
Yep.
Dancer, that is the version that was released in South Korea.
Oh,
However,
yeah,
since the release was April 30th, which is
yeah,
like, what is that, 8, 9 days ago, 10 days ago, right?
yeah.
The success was such that people reached out to us financially and stuff. So for the US release, we're going to have a completely different Demon Dancer Suanara movie for the North American release. We're going to
Wow.
have another 5, 6, maybe up to eight new action sequences, Phil. So I'm talking about expanding the movie about 8 to 12 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's all. Look, I'm an advocate. I love alternate cuts of films. Where you can imagine, Jackie Chan and the American cuts. Look, like The Protector, the alternate cuts. He does a different one. You kind of doing the Jackie Chan go, that was good, but actually, I can do it even better potentially because look, I could do even more. So you're going to throw more at it, more action sequences. This I can't wait for. Right, we're on the front foot of this. This is going to be fantastic. I can't wait for this. I mean, you must be really excited to have the opportunity to it, but that tells me you've got even more thoughts and more ideas on what you want to do to add to this to make it better than it already is, which will be, fantastic. But to give them the opportunity to do that anyway and to get an alternate cut is, yeah, I can't wait for that. That'll be so exciting, so
One of the
exciting.
things that I'm really paying attention right now, which I think is the most important thing,
Yeah,
is not to add action sequences just for the sake of
just
it.
correct. Yeah,
It
yeah,
has to make perfect sense. So, for
yes,
example, you already saw this version. If I send you the
yeah,
new version, let's say like in a couple of months,
yeah,
I want it to be like completely seamless, like to make
yeah.
perfect sense and to not only that, but also to elevate the
Elevate.
story and the production.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that is
yeah.
where the challenges is.
Yeah, of course it is. 100%. And you're absolutely right. And I love that. I love the fact that you say you're not going to put it in for action sense. And you've seen that in a million movies. There's an action scene that is just there because we know it's an action scene.
Yeah.
Bless him. I've seen Jason
Yeah.
Statham doing it a million times and we love him for it. But there's no sense in it. He's just there because he's going to have a fight. There needs to be a reason for it because that gives gravitas to the film. That drives the story. It drives the characters. It adds more reason why you want to see that character do whatever they do because there's a reason for that happening. So you're absolutely right, and it's great to hear it's done for the right reasons. But I'm really really excited for you, and I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with that. So I can revisit this all over again, and then we can have another conversation, and then hopefully I can pick out the scenes that I really love again and go, right, I've seen this cut. Now look at this cut, and I'm sure it'll be superb. Look. I don't want to take up much more of your time and stuff, but I do have one more fundamental question I ask all my guests.
Please.
Right, prepare yourself. If you're stuck in a desert island and you can only take 3 films with you, it can be any genre of film you like. What 3 films do you take?
That's an easy question.
Oh,
But
brilliant! Because
but
some
but
guests, right? Some guests go, oh, I don't know. There's so many. I very often do I get. Well, that's easy. I know it's 3 at the top of my head. Go on.
but you build up the suspense so
I know I
masterfully.
have. Yeah,
That's
sorry.
perfect. Well, I'm very simple, like in a way. Number one, and it might surprise you very much,
Go on.
it's Pitch Black with Vin Diesel, the very
I
first
love
one.
that film visually. Yes, I love it.
The second one is The Matrix,
Nice.
the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
I was very fortunate that the producer of Matrix, actually, he lives in San Francisco. He flew down to LA just to meet with me personally. And I
Wow.
screened the movie with him, like the movie that you saw.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was one of the
Awesome.
highlights of Demon
Up
Dancer
there.
because Matrix is always very, very
Yeah, it's
special.
up there, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then for the third movie, I would say The Gladiator, the original one from 2000.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
No,
Pitch
fantastic.
Black,
Big
it's
pick.
Pitch
Yeah,
Black, it's The
yeah.
Matrix, and it is The Gladiator. These 3 movies.
Fantastic choices. Look, I've asked a lot of people. I've asked, Chinese directors, and I've had like, things like Jaws. I've had,
Yeah,
mismatch of anything. It doesn't really matter.
yeah.
Really interesting conceptually, especially Pitch Black, which is one of my favorite films, by the
Oh,
way.
really?
Fantastic, just story driven and for what it is and stuff. The story is
Uh-huh.
fantastic. Love that. Matrix was great and stuff. I remember going to the cinema with my mate to see the Matrix, and they all come out and went, "Wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen." And I come out and went, "Yeah, it was all right and stuff." But I've been watching that, Bullet Time and all that for years in Hong Kong cinema. So, but
Yeah, yeah.
for Hollywood production, it
For
was
Hollywood, yeah.
groundbreaking. And then Gladiator was just this epicness, films and stuff you haven't seen since the likes of Ben-Hur. So I get your
Yeah.
picks.
Yeah.
If we have this conversation again, you're more than entitled, because I'll ask the same question, to pick another 3 films. So, it'll be good. So hopefully we could do this all again. Look, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been fantastic. I can't wait to see more of Demon Dancer. Just the fact now that I can see an alternate cut. And if it's as good as this one, it'll be fantastic. So look, I wish you every success in the future, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Phil. Very great to meet you. And I just want to also thank you from my heart, all that you do for the cinema, because I think
Pleasure.
it's very important to review, to talk with people, just to share, because like you mentioned earlier, movies touch your heart and forever shape your personality. And I think that is true for pretty much every single person in this world, whether they admit it or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind words, and like I say, I wish you every success. Have a great one, and thank you very much.